When Elaine Bernstorff died in the late 1970s, her surviving siblings Anita, Frank, and Margaret kept her body around the Evanston, Illinois home they shared. Notoriously private, and known for being pack rats, the Bernstorffs never let others enter their cluttered house, though they occasionally accepted help carrying in groceries. Everyone assumed it was because the Bernstorffs were embarrassed of their messy home. They had no idea that the family had been concealing their sister's dead body for more than 3 decades. Frank died in 2003 at age 83. The remaining sisters covered him with blankets and put him in another room, away from Elaine. Then Anita died in May 2008 at age 98, leaving the last sister all alone. Even with all 3 of her dead siblings living decaying under her roof, Margaret was sweet to neighbors. She handed out crackers to trick-or-treaters, made small talk, and gave flowers from her garden as gifts. When the neighbors asked about her siblings, Margaret said one was upstairs sleeping and the other moved to Indiana to live with relatives. That wasn't true. When Elaine Bernstorff died in the late 1970s, her surviving siblings Anita, Frank, and Margaret kept her body around the Evanston, Illinois home they shared. Notoriously private, and known for being pack rats, the Bernstorffs never let others enter their cluttered house, though they occasionally accepted help carrying in groceries. Everyone assumed it was because the Bernstorffs were embarrassed of their messy home. They had no idea that the family had been concealing their sister's dead body for more than 3 decades. Frank died in 2003 at age 83. The remaining sisters covered him with blankets and put him in another room, away from Elaine. Then Anita died in May 2008 at age 98, leaving the last sister all alone. Even with all 3 of her dead siblings living decaying under her roof, Margaret was sweet to neighbors. She handed out crackers to trick-or-treaters, made small talk, and gave flowers from her garden as gifts. When the neighbors asked about her siblings, Margaret said one was upstairs sleeping and the other moved to Indiana to live with relatives. Sometimes, all a girl wants is to maybe meet some guys, some Michigan guys, you know. Watch NASCAR and stuff. But when 67-year-old Charles Ziegler died in December 2010, that didn't put an end to his TV watching days. His longtime girlfriend Linda Chase, 72, kept his mummified corpse propped up in a living room chair, glassy eyes trained on the fast cars going in circles on the screen. When police discovered Ziegler's body in July 2012 to 18 months post-mortem, Chase admitted that she had been cashing his Social Security checks. "I'm probably going to prison," she said. In November 2013, a grieving Belgian widow was discovered to have been living with her dead husband's body for nearly a year. Too traumatized to report his death, the woman, 69, slept beside her husband Marcel's corpse, despite its smell and advanced stages of decomposition. A forensic pathologist reported, the body had rotted in the bed and his internal organs had melted and liquefied. The couple was discovered when a landlord noted that they hadn't paid their rent since 2012. Marcel, 79, was suspected to have died of an asthma attack. In June 2009, a concerned neighbor summoned police to the house of a 70-year-old Pasadena woman who was acting strange. There, they found her husband's badly decomposed body sitting upright on the couch. The deterioration was so bad, they could not tell if he had been dead for 2 months or 4. The woman was taken in to be treated for dementia. Around the world in Copenhagen, a 66-year-old woman failed to report her husband's death from cancer. Instead, she kept his body around for 2 months, until family members called the police in July 2012. Across the other pond, the Pacific one, news broke in March 2012 of a woman in Khabarovsk, Russia, also living with her dead husband. When the 72-year-old needed medical assistance, doctors showed up to her apartment and were surprised to find a mummified corpse lying in a bed. Though married with children, radiologist Karl Danzer, aka Count Karl von Gossel, aka Georg Karl Tanzler, fell in love with raven-haired tuberculosis patient Elena de Hoyos in April 1930. He was convinced he had been dreaming about her for decades, and he gave her many gifts. He tried to save her with several unorthodox methods, but she eventually died in October 1931 at age 22. Dantzler designed and built her a crypt, and he sat by her coffin every night to talk to her. She talked back, begging him to exhume her body. So he did. Then he tied her body parts together with piano wire, fitted her with glass eyes, made her a wig of human hair, her own, and covered her skin with wax. In time, she looked perfect. For the next 7 years, he played music for her at night and slept beside her. Dantzler was eventually arrested, tried, and somehow declared sane. Only then did doctors examine Elena's body. They found that Dantzler had fitted her hoo-ha with a tube wide enough for him to stick his no-no into it. They also found sperm inside it. One Sunday night in 2011, Parthasarathi argued with his wife, beat her soundly, and left the room. When he returned sometime later, he found his wife Saraswati, 28, hanging from the ceiling fan with a noose made of her sari. Rather than call for help, he cut her down himself, and she died soon after. For the next 4 days, he kept his wife's body locked in the bedroom, slept in the hallway, and told his children, 8 and 5, that their mom was sick. Neighbors eventually called police to investigate the foul smell of her decomposition. When Jean Stevens's husband James died around 2000, she still had her twin sister June for company. But when June passed away in 2009, Jean, 91, was very lonely. She somehow had the graves of both her husband and her sister exhumed. Whoever helped her got in trouble later, and brought their bodies home so she could see and talk to them. Stevens sat James down on a couch in her detached garage in rural Pennsylvania, and she propped June up in a spare room in the main house. She spoke to the two corpses, dressed them up in accessories, funny mustaches and hats, brobs, and spritzed them with perfumes that they liked, made them stink less. When questioned, she said, "I think when you put them in the ground, that's goodbye, goodbye. In this way, I could touch them, and look at them, and talk to them." Sad. Some men dump the bodies of the girlfriends they murder. Others lay them out on their bedroom floors, cover them in sheets, and surround them with taxicab air fresheners to combat the stench of decomposition. That's how police found 39-year-old Melinda Rea in July 2011, 2 months after Eric Grumpelt, 35, punched her in the stomach one too many times. In his defense, she cheated on him, and hiding a body is hard. Early one week in 2010, Phoenix police got a bizarre call from a 56-year-old man who said he had shot his wife. When they arrived at the house, they found the body of the 66-year-old woman in question, who had been shot with a handgun the Friday before. They also noticed that the caller had shot himself in the face, but was still alive. It went down as one of the worst weekends ever. In 2010, Tokyo resident Sojin Kato lived to see his 111th birthday, making him the oldest man in town. When local officials went to his house to honor him, they were turned away by family members. Upon investigation, police found Kato's mummified skeletal remains dressed in pajamas lying in his bed, where they had been for an estimated 30 years. As for their side of the story, Kato's daughter and granddaughter claimed innocence. They said the man at the house had retreated to his bedroom more than 3 decades ago to become a living Buddha, shutting himself behind a door that couldn't be opened from the outside without food or water. Fair enough. But after his wife died in 2004, Kato began receiving widower's pension payments, totaling more than $100,000, nearly 3/4 of which was withdrawn by the time his body was discovered. Kato's granddaughter, Tomiko, was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for fraud, but never served time. What she did do is live for 30 years in a house with a dead body. This is kind of sweet, but in the creepiest way possible. Likely at the right one and sweet, maybe? Maybe cute coworker who somehow knows where you live creepy. Anyway, after Levin's wife died and was buried in 2003, he began sleeping on top of her grave every night. When the weather got nasty, he dug a tunnel down to the casket so he wouldn't get rained on. In November 2004, more than a year later, he finally dug up the body and took it on home. To keep his wife's corpse nice and fresh, Van molded her skin with plaster and clay, dressed her up, and put on a little lipstick. In 2009, he reported that she slept on the bed with him, and that his eldest of 3 children hugged her every night before turning in. A neighbor described Van as a normal and well-behaved man. They always are. In 2005, loving husband Howard Lewis, 68, kept his wife Elizabeth's death a secret from friends and neighbors. He went on working at a shop in South Wales, and when asked, said she was fine. When police were finally called in after 5 months of no-sees, they found the body of Elizabeth, 79, still in the bed where she died, surrounded by air fresheners. Friends speculated that Howard was in shock and denial. In 1890 Paris, while Cézanne and Gauguin painted lovely things and ladies and gentlemen made merry at the Moulin Rouge, a teenage boy slept contentedly beside his mother. The twist was that she was dead, and he had just completely disemboweled her with his bare hands. And also raped her corpse. On his deathbed, Lucio Chacul, 61, asked his wife to keep his body hidden in their house in the Colombian countryside because he would be coming back to life. 30 days later, there was still no sign of a revitalized Lucio, and neighbors began asking where his body has gone. Wife Alba simply said she didn't know. But she did. It was wrapped in a sheet in her bedroom, decomposing just as quickly as it pleased and emitting a stench that would bring the undertaker himself to his knees. She later asked for permission to bury the embalmed body in her patio,